In this video, we're going to be discussing subtraction of integers as adding the opposite, and when we change it to an addition problem, we're going to be using the idea of teamwork or battle. So let's start with a problem that you would have done in elementary school. Let's take 7 minus 2 as our first example. Somewhere in elementary school, you would have been taught to do this on a number line. So the first number is 7, and you would put that on there. And then your elementary school teacher would have said, look, we are subtracting 2, so we're going to go in the opposite direction, 2 units. So then you would go back down 2, and you would have said it's 5. Now, I want to show you that this is the same thing as taking a 7 plus a negative 2. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm adding the opposite. I had a positive 7 minus a positive 2. I am rewriting that as positive 7. I leave that alone. I change the subtraction to addition, and I put the opposite sign on the second number. It was a positive 2. It's now a negative 2. If I do this on the number line, it is identical to the problem I just did. I have a positive 7. I'm adding to it a negative 2. That negative 2 is going to bring me down this way, and my answer is 5. So I could do it this way with the number line on every problem, but this is why the rule works. Okay, so without drawing it every time, here is what I'm thinking. I have a subtraction in between the two numbers. I'm going to rewrite that as plus the opposite. I have a positive 2, it's now a negative 2. I have now an addition problem with two different signs. That is a battle between positives and negatives. So I'm going to go to my thought cloud, and what I'm thinking is, well, I have 7 minus 2, which is 5. I have more positives than negatives, therefore my answer is a positive 5. Well, let's change it up. Let's see what happens. What if I had 7 minus a negative 2? What would happen then? I'm going to erase the number line because I don't want it to confuse you over there. All right, my rule says if I'm subtracting, I'm going to add the opposite. So right here, I'm subtracting. I need to make this adding the opposite. So this is currently a negative 2. I'm going to change that to a positive 2. Well, now I have an addition problem with two numbers that are the same sign, and it is a positive 9. I know that's so crazy because addition has become subtraction and subtraction has become addition. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. So if you will just train yourself to think through the steps, you're going to be okay. But when you're first learning this, your brain is going to betray you because the addition and subtraction rules are different than what you've done your whole life. So you have to slow down and really think through the rules. I have a subtraction problem, so I'm going to change it to an addition problem. I'm going to add the opposite of the second number. And then it's like this first thing didn't even occur. You just focus on this right here. I have an addition problem with two numbers that are the same sign. I'm going to add the number 7 plus 2, and I'm going to keep the sign. And then I'm going to go back and say, okay, that's the answer to my subtraction problem. So let's try a few more. Let's try 3 minus 5. I have to first notice that I'm starting with a subtraction sign in the middle. So I need to add the opposite. Currently, this is a positive 3 minus a positive 5. Well, I need to change that to 3 plus a negative 5. So I'm adding the opposite. I now have an addition problem with two different signs. That is a battle. So I go to my thought cloud and I think, what's 5 minus 3? Well, it's 2. I have more negatives than positives, or the negative 5 is more powerful than the positive 3, so the negative wins, and I have a negative 2, which means that the answer to this subtraction problem is negative 2. So let's try a negative 4 minus a negative 8. Let's see what happens with this. All right, I have a subtraction sign in the middle. I need to add the opposite. So I'm going to copy over the first number. I'm going to change my subtraction to addition and put the opposite sign on the second number. It was negative, it's now positive. Now I have an addition problem with two different signs. Okay, they're pulling in different directions. That's a battle. And what I have is 8 minus 4, which is 4. And then I look to see which one is stronger. The 8 is stronger. It is now positive. So my answer is a positive 4. All right, how about a negative 17 minus a negative 5? Let's see what we get there. I have a subtraction problem. I need to add the opposite. So I copy over the first number, I change my subtraction to addition, and I put the opposite sign on the second number. I now have a negative 17 plus a positive 5. This is a battle. So in my thought cloud, what I'm thinking is 17 minus 5 is 12. My 17 is stronger and it's negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And then I would put that up there. Well, let's try 6 minus a negative 20. Okay, I see that I have subtraction in the middle. I'm going to add the opposite. So I'm going to copy over the 6, change the subtraction to addition, put the opposite sign on the 20. It's now positive. Okay, so now I have a positive 6 plus a positive 20. That is teamwork. They're all the same sign. They're all pulling the same direction. 20 plus 6 is 26. My answer to this is a positive 26. How about a negative 3 minus a negative 10? I notice that I have subtraction in the middle, so I need to add the opposite. I copy over the negative 3, I add the opposite. Okay, so I now have addition. My negative 10 is now positive. Now I have an addition problem with different signs. Well, that's battle. So in my thought cloud, I'm thinking, what's 10 minus 3? It's 7. My 10 is more powerful. It is positive, so my answer is positive. If I have 4 minus a negative 4, again, I notice that I have subtraction in the middle, so I copy over the first number. I change that subtraction to addition, put the opposite sign on the second number. I now have an addition problem with two positive numbers. I add the numbers, I keep the sign. That answer is a positive 8. All right, how about a negative 5 minus 8? Well, I am going to notice that I have a subtraction sign in the middle. So I copy over the first number and I need to add the opposite. I'm going to add the opposite and get plus a negative 8 here. This 8 is positive, the opposite is a negative. I now have an addition problem with two numbers that are the same sign. I add the numbers and I keep the sign because that is teamwork. They're pulling in the same direction. And one last problem. Let's do, let's do a positive 9 minus a negative 2. Okay? I notice that I have subtraction in the middle. I'm going to change that. I'm going to take this subtraction and I'm going to add the opposite. I currently have a negative 2. The opposite of that is a positive 2. 9 plus 2 is 11, and that would be my answer. I know this is confusing, and it will take a while for your brain to adjust because it just feels so backwards. But this really is the rule. If you have a subtraction problem, you are going to add the opposite every time. And once you have an addition problem, you're going to go back and use those addition rules.